Perfect.
Welcome to the Mizell Show.
An inspiration for a new generation.
Hi, I'm Alanna Mizell, a loving mother of two, a devoted wife to Stephen, and an entrepreneur helping women realize their dreams and potential.
And I'm Stephen Mizell, caring father of two, a devoted husband to Alanna, and a driving force to help young men prepare for life after college football.
And if that wasn't enough, we're a biracial couple.
She was raised in the North, but I was raised in the South.
The only thing normal about our lives, who am I kidding? It's never normal around here. Join us for the Mizell Show.
Right now. Hello. We are back on the Mizell Show. We are back. We are doing this podcast once a month, and what you gonna do about it? Nothing but listen. Nothing but listen. Yeah.
God bless.
Life happens. Life is happening.
Gosh, parenting is so hard.
Parenting is so hard. And the ironic thing is that we try to carve out time on the weekends, evenings, maybe a lunch period, and we just don't. I mean, we're trying to do better.
But we try to do it, and then we're so tired. And
but
we don't want to give you halvesy things.
That's the ironic. First of all, we want to be A1 to do it. But the ironic thing is, Alanna is doing this podcast fresh off of going to bed at midnight because she went and saw Hamilton last night.
Showed it.
So it's so funny that out of all the times we do a podcast, it's like
this is the time I have
you're running
the energy.
on fumes.
I know.
And you.
But I am, but I'm not. Like topic wise, I'm not. You know, the brain's got to be churning.
So you gonna stay up for me tonight then?
False.
Oh, see what I'm saying? Like she's putting you guys first, the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are so happy
over myself and everything.
Oh my goodness, we are so happy to be back with you guys. A lot going on in the world, a lot going on in everyone's lives. So we greatly appreciate you guys.
I can't
coming.
even.
No,
is that also why?
We're not even talking about it.
Like, if we're like subliminally thinking about it, does that play a role into our inability to talk about something?
I don't
know.
know.
Because I feel like I'm going to go off on a political tangent.
Well, we can't do that.
Every conversation.
But it's also refreshing when you can have regular conversation with people and you just kind of give the head nod. So here's the thing.
Not wrong.
In Alanna's now peeping this game. In the African American culture, it is a thing for mostly males that I grew up with, where you can kind of just going through the gym or the grocery store, just give kind of a head nod. And that head nod is like, man, I appreciate you. I see you.
Okay,
I feel you.
That head nod means about 7,000 things, though.
It
depends on with the head nod, with the eyes, and the mannerism. Because it could be like, I see what girl you grabbed. There's like multiple different kinds of head nods. There's also like a head nod when the kids are there and they're like, wow, you got a great looking family. Or like a head nod. Glad you showed up. I guess I was
more going along the lines of just seeing a guy by himself. Like, I'm just head nodding him like, okay, I see you, respect, whatever. And so I bring all that to the table now where in this political climate we're in, Alanna is now realizing that she feels refreshed when she can either talk to or see someone that's feeling how she's feeling, but you don't have to say anything. She's like, you see me, I see you.
You see me, I see you.
Exactly. Like, I get that. And I ain't got to come out and say
There's a TikTok meme where the dog goes, you see me, I see you. You gonna give me that treat?
I have not seen that meme, but I trust you.
You're welcome.
Well, again, going back to it, like, it's a crazy time. And again, it's refreshing to find people or see people that are of like minds and see the struggle from a distance.
Subliminal things. We were at a dinner this week and we were talking about the colors of hats, and somebody said, well, I'm not wearing a red hat, and I was like,
okay,
I see you.
I see you.
Neither am I.
I see how you're feeling about that red hat.
Just like the subliminal where I was like, I caught it. We're good now.
Yeah. And
not
it wasn't
that people that wear red hats are not good. That's not what I'm saying. But it was the underlying political connotation that I was like, okay.
Yeah.
We're feeling the same vibe.
We're seeing where you're going.
I also think some of our Republican counterparts are also feeling some of those vibes.
I think a portion of America is feeling those vibes.
A large portion of the American people, and significantly large portion of the globe, is feeling those vibes.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Yeah. And so And so, as you know, well, you might not know, we always talk about a few things when we kick off the podcast. So first, Alanna.
To kick it off, even though we've just kicked it off.
No, it wasn't kicking off. That was just
it was a
catch
halves,
up.
It was a pass.
Pass. But three things we always talk about is like, what are you listening to?
What am I listening to or what am I reading?
Nope, we're going to listening first. Because when you go reading it, we stay in reading. Okay. So let's throw a curveball and say, what are you listening to?
I actually listened to, and we did this, I lead this quarterly ladies in learning thing at work. Mm-hmm. And we listened to a TED Talk, and it was fabulous. It was done by, I cannot remember her name. Okay. I'm so sorry. But she was Nigerian, and it's called A Single Story. And so it talks about telling a story from a singular lens. And she used to read books that were, as a child, that were from the UK. Okay. And so she was saying that they were blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and talked a lot about ginger beer. Yeah. So growing up, when she was writing stories like in class, those are the kinds of stories she wrote. And people were like, what? Yeah. You live in Nigeria and you have a very black family. Yeah. This is not your environment, nor have you ever had ginger beer. And then she always wanted it when she got older because she was like, what's the deal? Yeah. And she's like, it's terrible. I just thought it was funny. But the TED Talk is a total of 19 minutes, I think. But it really helps you to think about the lens that you have, which a lot of times is a singular lens. And then the story that you're telling is also a singular lens. And how can you change that narrative to have multiple lenses? Yeah. Which I just think is really cool. So I'd say that's what I'm listening to.
All right. Well, I am still listening to Kendrick Lamar. And that's a whole nother soapbox to get on. Mm-hmm. But
that's not a soapbox. That's artistry. We need a documentary on the halftime show.
But the thing about it is, though, there's so many people. I mean, you're never going to please everybody, hands down.
Not wrong.
But there's so many people that feel a certain type of way about it, and all I'm saying is, I'm listening to Kendrick Lamar. I appreciate his music, and I'm going to just leave it at that. Well, I am enjoying listening to some of his older stuff and listening to how he's kind of developed into an artist, and that's what I'm listening to. Himself.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I really haven't been honing in on a specific artist lately.
A genre or a mood?
No, even then, I'm just like, I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of just straight up meditative music. Because nothing is I'm just not vibing with anything. Yeah.
Speaking of music, our son is totally vibing with 80s hair metal. He loves really some Ozzy Osbourne, Crazy Train. He's listening to Queen. He's listening to Journey.
He's so funny.
He loves some. He's like, is this the 1980s? I'm like, yeah,
he loves that.
Actually, the 80s.
The 1980s?
Yeah, he's rocking.
When did that happen? Long time ago in the 1990s. Yeah. I hate when he says that, exactly. But also it's so funny.
So funny.
He's so funny.
He's listening to that. Adele is still locked into Wicked and Hamilton, and she just loves that.
Well, she still loves Teddy. That girl can sing every word of every Teddy Swims song.
But speaking of that, we haven't been around a minute, but speaking of another moment for Adele in music, she was very happy to see Cowboy Carter.
Oh, yeah.
We let her watch the recap of that, and she was very...
Yeah, winning. CMA Artist of the Year.
CMA, or is it...
Country Music.
Country Music Artist of the Year.
Country Music Artist of the Year, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And first time, black female.
Yes.
And she did a Black History Month project on Kamala Harris this month, and it was so fun to watch her be so proud. Mm-hmm. And yesterday we were in a bookstore before going to see Hamilton, and she saw a book that said Black Girl Magic. She grabbed it off the shelf and was just grinning from ear to ear. And she was just with me and my mom, who are both white. And it just is so beautiful to see her still love that part of her and not feel like she has to hide it because mom and I are white.
Yeah.
I just love that.
I love that.
But she'll equally pick up and be just as happy. She loves watching Full House, which is all white people.
Yes.
So I just love that she has the ability to embrace all parts of her culture.
Well, that's a great segue because I'm going to ask what you're watching. And we as a family have started Full House. And
from the beginning, not Fuller House.
No.
We're not there yet. We're watching Full House first.
The OG. Yeah. It can't go across the whole screen because it's that old.
Mary-Kate and Ashley
Olsen. But yeah, it's really good. And we both looked at each other while watching Full House and was like, hey.
So good.
There's no wholesome, well, maybe I just don't watch them on TV. There's not wholesome family sitcoms out.
No. And when I would come home from school I'm thinking like after my Arthur years, which I still love Arthur.
Alana has put our kids on Arthur and Bernstein Bears.
I love it. There were like some that Mary Kate and Ashley were in. There was one, I've got to remember the name because now we got to find it after they finish this one. We used to watch it all the time.
No, but Alana also said that we're going to graduate to Family Matters next.
Oh, 100% we are. 100%.
But just showing that, and so watching Full House
and then we have Step by Step.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
It's Saved by the Bell.
Oof.
We don't need to watch 2020s TV shows for a while. We're good.
And so,
until Bluey comes out. And then we'll come back, go back and forth.
But with Full House, it has so many things you can kind of see and feel as a parent now. And it's quite different and enjoying it. And now, last but not least, Alanna, what are you reading?
Why is it last but not least?
Because, I like to go...
Because you're looking at my list and you're like, you're reading a lot of books.
And I actually don't know how much you've read since we've actually did our last podcast.
I don't either. Probably a bit. I think I talked about...
How many you had the whole year?
7 so far.
Read 7 books.
On book 8 and 9.
8 and 9? Okay.
8 and 9. So yes. I read a more self-help dig in to my brain book. Usually also having a nonfiction rom-com-y kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, Sandwich, which is based in Sandwich, Mass, Cape Cod, it was a really well-written book. Short, sweet, but for the mamas, I'm going to do a little trigger warning. It does have a little bit about miscarriage and abortion. Not a ton, but it will make you cry no matter what if you're a mom. Mm-hmm. Another one that I finished is Dream Girl Drama by Tessa Bailey. You can only get it at Target. Anyway, I love Tessa Bailey. Her books are so easy for me to read. Just bam, bam, bam. I love her style of writing. And that was actually the 3rd in a series. So definitely snag that. But I would say my all-time favorite book so far this year out of the 7.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's kind of hard because I do have some others. But I guess one of the books that has helped me the most in a number of years is this book called What My Bones Know, a memoir of healing from complex trauma by Stephanie Foe. And specifically, it really leans into how she is a journalist. So she writes in storytelling mode, which is nice for a trauma book because typically it's like,
very heavy,
this
very
part of the brain does you know, and she is a journalist and she does the storytelling, which is really, really helpful and not just so intertwined into the science, but she goes into her own story and then breaks apart different components of how she healed from her complex trauma. Which even talking about complex trauma for me was a new thing. It wasn't really something that I've known a ton about, but how everybody sees their complex trauma differently and different ways that she worked on healing it. So for me, it was helpful to even be able to look at that and think about some of my friends or family members that might have complex trauma or have tendencies of it to be able to care for them better. And also look at my own trauma and like, how can I approach that differently and more gently and more kind and really start to understand where it's originating from. Yeah. So hard book to get through just from a emotional, mental capacity. If you are going through things in therapy and have past trauma or know people that have, but I would say it's probably two books are my most suggested so far this year. That one and The Lost Bookstore.
The Lost Bookstore?
Lost Bookshop.
That was this year?
That was.
Did not realize that.
It was in January.
Nice. Well, yeah, so I mean, like, so it's funny that you say that in terms of the book, because she's able to be she's telling a story, and speaking up for herself, but in a very non-traditional way, and helping you read it. Because I know, people, well, like you breaking it down in the morning, like sometimes you read books and you want self-help, but it's so heavy you can't get through it. But you did mention to me when you were reading that book, it was very good storytelling and really able to help you kind of navigate that story. Yeah,
similar to how Brene Brown goes into stories kind of throughout her writing, even more storytelling than that. It was really well done, and even I'm trying to like articulate. It's almost like you are just sitting across from a good friend that's telling you what she's been through, which is nice. Yeah. And hey, here's this tip that I have. Here's this tip, and here's why. Those kinds of things. It's beautifully done.
Nice.
Beautifully done.
Or was that recommended by somebody, or how did you feel about that one?
I think it came up on like my Google ads, because like, you know, I look up all the different things. My little
Google
nerdy
worked
self.
on that one. I was thinking maybe
Google
it was through your book app. Might have had a suggestion for
No, I think and I may have heard it.
Okay.
You know, it was definitely a pushed ad, and then I started digging into it a little bit more.
And then read how...
And who the writer was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's fascinating.
Awesome. Well, now that kind of segues us into our topic that has been inking your brain, thinking about it.
I think we've been processing it a long time.
Yeah.
And we actually started, I would say, we have a podcast back near Thanksgiving, maybe last year.
Oh, yes.
About setting boundaries with family members. And what is so interesting is as we've grown, both together and in therapy and in reading and just like constantly trying to progress as adults, I think it's just like an adult thing.
Yeah.
You start to understand more and more what true boundaries are.
Yes.
And on top of that, what we really want to dig into is how we've worked together individually and together to really try to vouch for ourselves and look out for ourselves and speak up for ourselves. And it is so stinking hard.
It's definitely hard because I think in the world that we live in, it's very easy to self-promote via social media. Mm-hmm. Self-promote behind a keyboard. I call them keyboard warriors. But when it comes to you having a tough conversation with a boss, a significant other, a family member, whatever you call it, a doctor, it is extremely hard. Mm-hmm. But you're also able to pull through the different parts of your journey to get you there. So you are now at a place where you have worked through many things with many medical different professionals, but each one that you went through, I think you've pulled a little nugget from it to give you the confidence to now be able to speak for yourself. But it also goes, in order for you to speak for yourself, you have to work on yourself. You have to do the research yourself.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I think I want to really break this down to like 3 main points. Mm-hmm. So the first one being, learn who your coaches are.
Ooh.
And the reason I say who your coaches are is one of the biggest things that my actual softball coaches had told me when I was younger is you take little bits of information from all the people that you find valuable. So whether it be a softball coach, a parent, you know, my Graham really changed who I am.
Yeah.
And I think back to her all the time. What would she do? How did she act? How did she carry herself? She was a pivotal coach in my life. Mm-hmm. She spoke up for herself.
Yeah.
During the World War II times. Those kinds of things. She was a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
But also, who are the other coaches along my journey who have helped me determine who I am? So who are you coaching with? Who's coaching you?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Who do you feel like has been coaching you? Or what components of the coaching do you feel like you grabbed onto at a young age?
At a young age?
Yeah.
Ooh. I would have to say some of my coaches, I think at a young age, but you see that person as a coach. I would say probably my high school football coach I learned a lot from, just based on the mannerisms, based on the way he communicated to us. And keep in mind, I mean, this is so long ago, but like we went 0-10 my senior year of high school, and we were awful. But what I learned from him and the way he came into that role and the way he carried himself and the way he treated every person the same when he walked through that door, from the communication to the non-communication, non-verbal skills, I would say he was one that, because I think I was at an age that I could actually start somewhat comprehending how that goes. Yeah.
So when you say his communication, what specifically did you hold on to? Or do you feel like you're implementing today?
Compassion.
Okay.
I think his way to feel compassionate, to go to being, I think maybe it was his second coaching job ever, not sure, but like coming into an atmosphere where he was coming into and being as, not as good as we were, to treat every person, every player with the compassion of how you redirect, how you grow on and off the field. Like when you're having your mishaps, it was compassion. He stayed even tempered the entire time. And it was just something that really sticks out to me. I actually haven't thought about it until you brought that up now. And I was like, oh, that's actually something he brought to me. Yeah.
I think another thing, so we've got learn who your coaches are and who you want to be your coaches. I also think that people that are poor leaders are great coaches as well. Because you can take bits of things that they did. That
I was about to ask you, can you have a bad coach?
Absolutely you can. Because they're coaching you on things that you don't want to look like. And here's the thing. Very successful people can be bad coaches for where you want to go. So that goes into number 2. Learn how to be alone. And learn how to be alone. So you're figuring out who your coaches are, but then you're going to learn how to be alone so you can figure out what you individually want.
Yes.
What you individually want. I am 34, almost 35, and just barely getting into figuring out what I want as an individual and not the voices of young Alanna, not the voices that I hear in my head that I think are my parents, not the voices of the bad coaches that maybe tore me down, not the kids that were mean to me. All of those voices in your head actually dictate what you're doing every single day. Yeah. And those aren't the good coaches. Yeah. So we're not talking about the compassionate leader that Stephen had. We're talking about the coaches that get into your head. Sometimes I call the voice in my head Wanda, and she just needs to be quiet because I feel like that's such a good name.
Wanda.
It's like Wanda Sykes up in there. But she's great. But I'm just saying, in general, I put a name on it because sometimes it's so loud that I just need to tell it to move to the side. Yeah. That's kind of what I've been saying. I need for you to move to the side because I can't handle that voice right now. I'm going to come back to you because what I'm also learning with that, to be able to speak up for yourself, you also have to come back to the voice that is talking to you.
Yeah. And you have to be able to comprehend or go through that voice, because if you don't ever go back to it, how can you take that knowledge that it's going to bring you good or bad to move forward? And I think it's important.
Well, also your whole body is carrying that voice that's talking in your head, and she or he, they will come back. Yeah. It's a matter of time. Yeah. And in my experience, they love to rear their negative little heads at the worst opportunity possible. When you're running late, when you've had a terrible week, they just keep telling you you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. But to truly be alone with yourself. So find who your coaches are. Learn how to be alone. Yeah. So that you can talk to all of those different people. I'm currently reading a book called No Bad Parts. That's my more challenging book. And it talks about the different parts of yourself. So not like a schizophrenic or bipolar, but every person has, you've got your little 6-7-year-old Alanna. Yep. I've got my middle school Alanna, bless her. But also within my middle school Alanna, that's when softball Alanna started. So, how did those interact with each other and then also manifest into today? Yeah. So learn how to be by yourself. And you cannot figure out who you are unless you can listen to your own voice.
And that's a challenging point. Some people are afraid to be by themselves. Right. And I'm not saying, you have to take that time.
Oh my gosh, I was terrified. Yeah. I still am. And I feel like, for me personally, my body tells me when the terrifying things are coming. And as you start to listen to yourself more, you feel it more. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is now you have to determine what you want.
That's just easy, right?
No, it's not. You have to have listened to yourself to determine what you want. Yeah. But if you're speaking up for yourself, if it's for something that you don't actually want, why you're speaking up, you haven't determined your constant variable in science. You haven't determined your core, your baseline. So, like we've talked a lot about boundaries. Well, what is your baseline? My baseline is to not interrupt my family dynamic. If a person is coming in, they're going to infiltrate into my family, that's going to cause me anxiety, my husband anxiety, or my kids anxiety. They are not worth it. Yeah. Any of the 4. Yeah. It's not worth it.
You have to figure out what you actually want.
So for me, that's a baseline boundary. So for me to be able to stick up for myself in a compassionate way, like we've talked about, that was a coaching model, right? From point 1, I have to also know that baseline. So then I can begin to speak up for myself in whatever format that is. Yeah. For us right now, we have big decisions that are coming up, and it is a non-negotiable when it comes to work. Yeah. It's like, I got an offer recently, and it's a non-negotiable. I'm not doing it because of X. Yes. And so I think you've first got to figure out who your coaches are. Then you've got to learn to be able to be by yourself. And then you've got to figure out what you truly want.
And those 3 steps are not easy at all.
No, they're like years worth of work.
Years worth of work, but also you And again, you're working with and through people to go through those three things. Mm-hmm. We don't ever want our listeners to think you either do it by yourself or that by any means we have like perfected this, because I know I haven't. I don't think.
No, I think the reason I really wanted to talk about it is because I'm in the crux of it at 34. And I think so many times people look at you and I, who have a podcast, who are in corporate America, who have 2 kids that are smiling. We have the best kids in the entire world. But
rock stars.
They have, it's probably because we're half laughing all the time because we just have to laugh things off. But at the same time, that was God-given. And so the reality is we are in the throes of figuring out who we are as parents. And I think you're constantly changing what like the baseline of who you are a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like right now, the non-negotiables are going to change later on. That's true. As I have bigger kids, the non-negotiables are going to adapt. Mm-hmm. But fundamentally, my core 4 is not going to change. They will always be in first position. And that's something that we chose a long time ago as parents. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing. And bad coaches are who taught me that my family of 4 must come first.
That's true. And I think as we wrap this up, that's one thing that I always take things from having these conversations. But I think one thing that really sticks with me and I want to continue to hone in on is when you said that from bad coaches, you can learn where you don't want to be, even though they're good at it. Right. And so, like, you might see someone doing X, Y, Z, and, like, that's their life and they're successful, but, like, is that what you really want? And do you want to, like, again, change your boundary in order to get there? And I think
to your core.
To your core, yeah.
To your core. Is that what you want? Now, I'm not saying that things won't cause you stress. Yeah. I'm saying actually change your mental health and change your lifestyle and put you in an unhealthy position. So I would almost get a sheet of paper and write out all the good coaches, write out all the bad coaches, put little adjectives or stories next to them about what they taught you, what they didn't teach you, and then go into the next part. I would even then, like, if you're a journaler, journal out those stories, because I bet as you see those stories, you're going to see narratives that continue to play off and teach you about who you want to be. And all of that, as you write those stories, you're going to be sitting with yourself. Put on meditative music, put on, the 4K beach, France, whatever on YouTube, and write it out. Yeah. And then go back with highlighters maybe a day or 2 later and start to find similarities. Yeah. I think through telling the stories of those that have impacted us from a coaching model the most, good and bad, you will start to understand who you are, which will then give you your baseline. Yeah. And then you can say, am I altering my baseline from day to day? Or does this person alter my baseline? Or do I believe so much in finding a root cause for this health that I do not care? I will find it. Yeah. Which for me, that is a baseline. Mm-hmm. Right now. Has been for 4 years. So yeah. Yeah. I think this could definitely evolve into a part 2. Because now, but thinking through this, and we're going to tee this up, thinking through where you are in your career right now and your health journey, and where I am in my career right now, I think we could really show people how we've navigated through to where we are today. And it's heavy. Like, I'm thinking through some things that, how my non-negotiables have changed and how when I first jumped in. So here's the deal. This is part 1. Stephen and I will sit down and do the exercise that I just mentioned.
No, Alanna's going to do that. I don't. I'm just kidding, guys. I will do it.
You guys should see the look I just gave him. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know when part 2 is going to be, so don't wait for it. I'm just kidding.
Well, we try to do every 2 weeks, so we got 2 weeks to do it.
We'll try. So we'll sit down and we will do the exercise, and then we'll come back for the part 2 and go through writing out our coaches, the adjectives, the stories to determine who we are at the baseline, who we are by ourselves, and what our baselines are. And I'm going to see if it matches up with what I've been journaling.
Let's go.
Very cool.
Thank you, guys.
So if you guys are enjoying this, definitely leave us a review. Give us the feedback. If there's something you guys want us to talk about, reach out to us on our website at themizellshow.com. There is a contact section. You can put it in there. We would love to hear about it. Or you can always go over to Instagram at The Mizell Show. Also, as always, don't forget to screenshot this episode and just add it to your stories and tag us on Instagram, on Facebook at The Mizell Show. Thanks, guys. Are you loving The Mizell Show? Well, we love you all. And did you know that you can have me and Steven talk to your team or a group of 25 of your friends? All it takes is 25 people showing up on either a Zoom call, a Facebook Live, or really anywhere. Hopefully in person sooner rather than later. But how do you get us? So all you have to do is email themizellshow@gmail.com, or you can direct message us on Instagram @themizellshow.